Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sarvamitadritam manye yan mam vadasi Keshava nahi te Bhagavan Vyaktim vidur devana danavaha swayam eva atmanam Vitatvam Purushottama Bhutabhavana Bhutesha Deva Deva Jagatpati. O Krishna, I totally accept as truth all that you have told me. Neither the demigods nor the demons, O Lord, can understand your personality. Purport. Arjuna herein confirms that persons of faithless and demonic nature cannot understand Krishna. He is not even known by the demigods, so what to speak of so-called scholars of this modern world. By the grace of the Supreme Lord, Arjuna has understood that the Supreme Truth is Krishna and that he is the Perfect One. One should follow, therefore, the path of Arjuna. He received the authority of Bhagavad-Gita as described in the 4th chapter. The Pampara system or the cyclic succession for understanding of Bhagavad-Gita was lost, and therefore Krishna re-established that the cyclic succession with Arjuna because he considered Arjuna as intimate friend and a great devotee. Therefore, as stated in our introduction to Gita Upanishad, Bhagavad-Gita should be understood in Parampara system. As the Pampara system was lost, Arjuna was selected to rejuvenate it. Acceptance by Arjuna of all that Krishna says should be emulated. Then we can understand the essence of Bhagavad-Gita, and only then can we understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Indeed, you alone know yourself by your internal potency, O Supreme Person. Could we close this window? It's too loud. Origin of all, Lord of all beings, God of gods, Lord of the universe. The Supreme Lord Krishna can be known by persons who are in relationship with him through the discharge of devotional service, like Arjuna and his followers. Persons of demoniac or atheistic mentality cannot know Krishna. Mental speculation that leads one away from the Supreme Lord is a serious sin, and one who does not know Krishna should not try to comment on Bhagavad-Gita. Bhagavad-Gita is a statement of Krishna, and since it is a science of Krishna, it should be understood from Krishna as Arjuna understood it. It should not be received from atheistic persons. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Vadanti tat tadva vidas tadva yaj jnanamapayam paramiti bhagavan iti paramativeti paramadeti bhagavan iti sapsati. The Supreme Truth is realized in 3 aspects: as impersonal Brahman, localized Paramatma, and as last as Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it's the last stage of understanding the Absolute Truth when it comes to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A common man or even a liberated man who has realized impersonal Brahman or localized Paramatma may not understand God's personality. Such men therefore may endeavor to understand the Supreme Person from the verse of Bhagavad-Gita which are being spoken by this person, Krishna. Sometimes impersonalists accept Krishna as Bhagavan or accept his authority. Yet many liberated persons cannot understand Krishna as Purushottama, the Supreme Person. Therefore Arjuna addressed him as Purushottama. Yet one may still not be understand that Krishna is the father of all living entities. Therefore Arjuna addressed him as Bhuta Bhavana. And if one comes to know him as the father of all living entities, still one may not know him as the Supreme Controller. Therefore he is addressed here as Bhutesha, the Supreme Controller of everyone. And even if one knows Krishna as the Supreme Controller of all living entities, still one may not know that he is the origin of all the demigods. Therefore he is addressed here as Devata, the worshipful God of all demigods. And even if one knows him as worshipful God of all the demigods, one may not know that he is the Supreme Proprietor of everything. Therefore he is addressed as Jagatpati. Thus the truth about Krishna is established in its verse by realization of Arjuna, and we should follow in the footsteps of Arjuna to understand Krishna as he is. Om Agyantimidandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmritam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah. Sri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitamina Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Darati Svaparantikam Vandeham Siguru Siyuta Padakamalam Sigurun Vaishnavam Sa Sirupam Sagajatan Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savabdutam Savitan Krishna Chaitana Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shivishakam Vitam Sa Hey Krishna Karna Sindhu Dina Bando Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhadi Sudadevi Pranamami Hari Pre Vanchakalpataru Yasha Kripa Sinnameva Cha Patitana Pavanevi Vaishnavi Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gradha Shivasadi Go Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Rama and once more Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Hare Krishna. So, in Bhagavad-Gita, Krishna says this repeatedly, that he cannot be understood by ordinary karmis, ordinary living beings. There's this verse, Naham prakasha savasya yoga maya samavitaha, that I'm covered by my yoga maya. Mudo yam navijanati, fools cannot understand me. Muroyam Nabhijanati, Lokamam Ajam Avayam. I'm never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent, for them I'm covered by my internal potency, and therefore they do not know that I'm unborn and inexhaustible. Tribir Guna Mayir Bhavair Evi Sarvamidam Jagat Mohitam Nabhijanati Mam Ebhya Param Avayam. Deluded by the three modes of nature, passion, goodness, and ignorance, the whole world does not know me, who am above the modes and am inexhaustible. So then Krishna says, also, Vedaham samatitani vatananani Arjuna bhavishyani chabhutani mam tu vida nakashana. O Arjuna, as a Supreme Personality of Godhead, I know everything that has happened in the past, all that is happening in the present, and all that are yet to, things that are yet to come. I also know all living entities, but me no one knows. So that's a clear statement that Krishna is not so easily understood. And so the general exercise human beings do is that they impose on Krishna their concepts. Like it says Vaishnavya Kriya Mudra, even a Vaishnava, a pure Vaishnava cannot be understood by ordinary people. Then what to speak of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Cannot die. In the spiritual, there are two living beings, basically speaking, as Krishna explains, the fallible and the infallible. In the spiritual world, everybody is infallible. In the material world, everybody is fallible. And Krishna is beyond the fallible and the infallible. So most people, most religious systems that we find in this world are simply speculative. They're speculations. They're imposed by inferior minds. Like if we were to talk to a rat, say it is possible to talk to a rat, and ask him, what is God? It's something very big. You say, yes, it is like a huge rat. It has golden fur and long tail and bristles made out of gold, and he will simply project from his own. What is it? Abana Manyati Jagat. Yeah, that one proposes God to be according to one's speculative possibility. And so it is impossible to understand Krishna. Like Mother Yashoda, she tried to bind Krishna. And Krishna was always a little bit ahead. She could not bind Krishna at all. So in the same way, the scientists will never be able to understand God. They're building gigantic contraptions, like in Europe, in Switzerland, you have the CERN Institute. Who has heard about it? It's a gigantic particle accelerator, something like 28 kilometers diameter, where particles are turned around in a huge circle, gigantic circle, and then hit against another type of particle, and they try to go to the Big Bang, trying to understand what is actually happening there. And the truth is very simple for those who are willing to hear Krishna. It's very simple, explained in Srimad Bhagavatam and in Brahma Samhita also, and in Surya Siddhanta, that the Supreme Lord is simply lying down in his expansion as Karanadakasha Vishnu, and while breathing, while exhaling, so many universes come out of his mouth and out of his pores, and that is what scientists can never see. They cannot see. They can only see there's something, and they're looking for the God particle. They call it the God particle. But even if they find the God particle, they'll never find Krishna, because to understand Krishna requires piety. Like Krishna says, only by undivided devotion can I be understood as I am standing before you. That's the verse right there that Krishna explains to Arjuna. Only by undivided devotion. Otherwise I cannot understand Krishna. I can speculate forever. For billions and trillions of years I will never be able to understand God. So instead of building for something like $20 trillion a particle accelerator to understand the origin of the universe, it is by far more intelligent to go to the next Hare Krishna temple, buy a Bhagavad-Gita for $5, and there Krishna says, I'm the source of everything. Aham savasya prabhavo mata savam pavartati iti bhamatva bhajanti mam buddha bhava samamita. Those who worship me in love, they understand this. There is no truth beyond me, Krishna says. All universes are resting on me like pearls are resting on a thread. So it just takes $5 really to understand this. You don't have to build a gigantic particle accelerator to understand God. And you will never come in this way to the conclusion, because you're lacking piety. You have to have piety to understand Krishna. Krishna is not accessible to fools and rascals. Like he says in Bhagavad-Gita so many times, I'm never accessible to those who are not willing to accept the process how to understand me. And the process to understand, Queen Kunti also says, Maya janavi javani katsanam agyatok sajam avyayam na lakshyasi muda drisha natu natyadaro yataha. Being beyond the range of limited sense perception. So neither with our senses, nor with our mind, nor with our intelligence can we understand Krishna, because he is covered by the curtain of the deluding energy, which is also Krishna. You are invisible to the foolish observer, exactly as an actor dressed as a player is not recognized. So Krishna is not accessible. There's a wonderful verse in Srimad Bhagavatam. This is Atapita Deva Padambujajvaya Prasara Neshanugrihita Evahi Janati Tattvam Bhagavan Mahimno Nachanya Eko Pi Chiram Vichinvan. My Lord, and here's the point now. He says that even if one is favored by even a slight trace of the mercy of your lotus feet, if one is favored by even a slight trace of the mercy of lotus feet, he can easily understand the greatness of your personality, if one has Krishna's mercy. But those who speculate to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead are unable to know you, even though they continue to study the Vedas for many, many years. So it is, we can't understand Krishna through mental speculation, neither through pratyaksha. Krishna reveals himself. He's in our heart as Super Soul, as Lord Paramatma. And if he wants, then we can understand him. To that degree, Krishna wants us to understand him, and that depends on our surrender to Krishna. If you're not surrendered to Krishna, like most people in this world are not surrendered to God, then there's no hope that we can understand. And even if we may be religiously minded, then we create some religious system according to our own understanding. And so there is, in Christianity, you have the Trinity. It's just a theological concept that has absolutely nothing to do with reality. If you ever go to the spiritual world, and we would ask a gopi, they're very close to Krishna, what is the Holy Trinity? I never heard such a thing. What is that? Nobody in the spiritual world is aware that there is such a thing like the Holy Trinity. It is just a concept that has been arisen over the centuries. As soon as Jesus left, the Christian myth-making started. You understand myth-making? The myth started to develop. First of all, that he's God. But there is no such a thing. There's only one God. There's not two gods, Jesus and Krishna and the Paramatma. There's no three gods. There's only one God, actually, Krishna. And the Paramatma is also Vishnu Tattva. We know this because Paramatma is the expansion of Kshirodakashayi Vishnu. Kshirodakashayi Vishnu is one of the Purusha avatars that come from Krishna. So he is Krishna indeed, but Jesus is Jiva. He's a soul, a Jiva, Jivatma, that came down 2,000 years ago for the sake of what? To preach God consciousness. So Krishna sends, either he comes himself or he sends his son. We have this booklet, the Reservoir of Pleasure, Krishna, the Reservoir of Pleasure. On page 5, you can see that Prabhupada says, either Krishna comes himself or he sends his son. So maybe Jesus in this case. He sends somebody from the spiritual world. Like it is stated that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati also, that he's such and such gopi, I forgot which one. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur also came out of the circle of gopis. These descend to preach Krishna consciousness. They are Shakti Avesha avatars, but they're not Krishna himself. They're Jiva. They're expansions of Krishna. Vibhinamsa, Mamaivamsho, Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta, Sanatana. All living entities are expansions of myself. And people don't understand this. Either they think God is so far away, he's in the heaven with all the angels, or they think I'm God. God is everywhere. And I'm God, you're God, he says everything is God. The Mayavadi solution on the other side. These are the two extremes. One says that God is in the clouds and with the angels. Note that in the spiritual world, there has never been talk, I've studied this, there are no angels in the spiritual world. The angels in the higher planets of the universe, like the Gandharvas or the Kinnaras. Kinnaras come from Kinnara Loka. Who is the king of Kinnara Loka? Who knows that? Garuda. Garuda is a human being that has wings, right? And so he's a king of Kinnara Loka. And in Kinnara Loka, all the living entities have, all the humans have wings. But in the spiritual world, there is no such a thing. There are coward boys, there are coward girls, there are fathers and mothers and friends, and everything is there, but there are no angels. So as soon as we talk about angels, We talk about the heavenly planets. We don't talk about the spiritual sky. And so in Western religiosity, there's talk of angels. In the Old Testament, there are angels. In New Testament, there are angels. And in Muslim scripture also, there are angels. Because it's the heavenly planets. This is all how far they can understand the universe as being the all in all and the earth as the center. But we know from scripture, from Krishna book, for example, that there are so many universes. So many Brahmas came. Brahma thought that he was the only Brahma in the world. Krishna showed him. There are so many much greater Brahmas. Unlimited almost unlimited universes. This is just one, and this is all Krishna's energy. So the understanding of Krishna, of God in the Western religiosity, you call this Abrahamic religion, because Muslim, Jewish religion, and Christian religion is of Abraham. Abraham is the common father of all of them. Abrahamic religion. There is no concept, no understanding of God really. God is depicted with a long beard, an old man. And he keeps books of everybody, and he says, oh, I see this, we'll do this. I've seen this also, I'll come back to you later. He's like a bookkeeper who keeps track on everyone. But we know that has nothing to do with Krishna. The prime minister is not doing this in a country, that he pursues people. He's pursued by the Justice Department and ultimately by the Supreme Judge, by the judge system, by the judicial system, but not by God himself. By the Prime Minister, he has nothing to do with it. He stays out of it. So in the same way, Krishna stays out of the creation of the universe, or as far as punishing the sinners. For that there is, who is there? Yamaraj, Yama, the Lord of Death. So think about it. What understanding do people have of God? You know, you can ask, I've asked Christians for the last 45 years, what is God? And they don't understand. They have some ideas of God. He's a great power, he's everywhere, or he has a long beard, and the soul was made at a particular time. We come in existence at the time of conception or at the time of birth. Some Christians think at the time of conception, others think at the time of birth. We become, actually, that's our first appearance in this world. It's true, but that's just a body. It has nothing to do with the soul. So the knowledge of God and the living entity is far from being perfect. Like we have an understanding that originally the original personality of Godhead, supreme personality of Godhead, among many personalities of Godhead, many, the unlimited personalities of Godhead, they're all Swamsa, expansions of Krishna. And then you have Vivinamsa, these are the living entities of on all planets and in the spiritual world also. They're the marginal energy of God. We have a very clear understanding like this. That Krishna has three energies. One is his internal energy, one is his marginal energy, the living entities, and one is the external energy. That's the material world. That's also Krishna. Because everything is Krishna. When Prabhupada was dying here in this room next door, last thing he said, everything moving and non-moving, there's nothing but Krishna. This consciousness is called Krishna consciousness. And one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, Krishna says, one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, everything in Krishna, I'm never lost to him, nor is he ever lost to me. Very simple, you know. So we have to learn to see Krishna everywhere. That even if calamity to come to us, we have to immediately understand that this is coming from Krishna. Something good comes to us, that comes from Krishna. Something bad comes from us, also Krishna. And we can understand only this by Krishna's mercy. Without Krishna's mercy, we cannot even chant properly. Idas Thakur used to say that no one in this world is able to chant without distraction, without the mercy of Krishna. That's what we struggle with. When we chant early in the morning, our mind is going to Facebook or some other ridiculous thing or something we have to do right now. Whereas the important thing is to focus our mind on Krishna. Just like when you focus, you shoot an arrow, you have to focus. People are talking left and right, you cannot listen to that. You know, you become sidetracked. You have to focus on the goal. Here I am, and there's a goal, and shoot the arrow into the bullseye. I have to switch 1 second. This is ridiculous. We have to focus on Krishna. And that's difficult because the material nature is always pulling. It's pulling us away from Krishna. That's the business of Maya. Maya is like the doorman. You know, you go to the doorman and said, "Can I Chokidar?" You go to Chokidar, "Can I see Prithu Das?" And he said, "No, why? What's your qualification?" So in the same way, we come to Krishna, we knock at the gate, and St. Peter will say, to stay within the Christian world, St. Peter will say, "What's your qualification? Look at this." And there's a beautiful woman, and we run after that. Or look at that, there's money and wealth. Or look at that, there's fame. And so in this way, people become mesmerized. All these big famous people, they're so mesmerized by externals. And they suffer, although they have many millions. Many millions. They may be materially very successful. Just like I saw this fellow Justin Bieber. Who has heard of Justin Bieber? He had to stop his last tour because he sank into an ocean of depression. And he's taking Xanax, which is such a bad benzodiazepine that in many states of the United States it is forbidden. Like Washington State doesn't allow anybody to use Xanax because it's highly, highly addictive drug. So he's definitely in trouble. If somebody takes Xanax, you know, that's the bottom. From there you can only, Michael Jackson did that. The Michael Jackson way, he took Xanax and more Xanax and more Xanax to be able to sleep and to be able to cope with depressions. So you see so much money, so much fame, everybody wants to have this Justin Bieber as his friend. But himself, he said he's extremely lonely and he feels completely disconnected from everything. He's disconnected. He's completely sad. What is the use of all this? You know, we are in a much better situation. I mean, if we are sitting here in this temple, we must have done something in our previous life. Maybe we must have performed a horse sacrifice or something to be able to end up in the Hare Krishna temple, in Vrindavan, in the topmost position of the universe, practically speaking. Whereas this fellow, young, he became very famous, and he had all the women and all the wine and all the sexuality he wanted, and he is damaged. His mind is going crazy. You know, he is very lonely and feels that he doesn't know how to get out of this hole. You know, so you see how little is this worth to strive for material means. It is unintelligent. You see so many big performers. They seem to be on top of the world if you study them. And everybody, thousands of people are adoring them, but inside they are very, spiritually they're very poor. And at best they take birth, and again as a musician, they come back, like Ravi Shankar Prabhupada said, the sitar player, that he was seven lifetimes he was a famous sitar player, 7 lifetimes. And he comes, it's not a blessing, it's a curse. It's not a blessing. You see, material qualities are not a blessing at all, they're a curse for us. Better not to be materially blessed at all, and be simple, and have nothing except Krishna. That's by far better. So it is better to put ourselves in a position of external poverty. Much better. Like devotees, they don't have much. what do they need? Just the basics, and rather develop our spiritual dimension. Rather do that. That is worth it. Then life actually is successful. When we give up focusing on the material world in terms of Dana, Jana and Sundaram, and turn to Krishna directly. That is by far more intelligent. Far more intelligent. And everybody should do that. Because if we do that, then Krishna says, Mam prapya mam nivajati tadamam pratama mama. We go to the spiritual world. We don't come back again. That is much better. So Krishna cannot be understood by any type of speculative calisthenics, exercises. Not possible. He doesn't reveal himself. If you look at the 9 steps given by Srila Rupa Goswami, how to come to Krishna consciousness, in the beginning it is faith, sadhu shraddha, then there is sadhu sangha that we associate with devotees, which we do. We have kirtan, we live in temples, we associate with each other, eating prasadam, going on Harinam. So that sort of association is very, very good. Sadhu sangha. Then bhajana kriya. We perform bhajan, we perform kriya means devotional activities. Hearing about Krishna, chanting about Krishna, working for Krishna, making garlands for Krishna, decorating the deity for Krishna, according to your nature. If you're a gardener, well, there's so many places in ISKCON where you can be a gardener in a temple. Like for some Detroit temple, beautiful temple, they have a huge garden, what they need is a gardener. So if somebody is a devotee, gardener, he can, for the rest of his life, he has a job. He doesn't have to go outside. He doesn't have to work for the municipality to clean out city parks. He can just use his ability. I don't have that. I can work in a garden. I can sit on a computer forever and can write letters and email and can write articles and these sort of things I can do. But I can't see myself in, this is a complete foreign environment for me, sitting in a garden and start gardening. It's not my thing. Nor am I a cook. I can cook 3, 4, I can't even make a chapati. I know how to make khichdi, yes, that I know. I know how to make porridge, that I know. And, but we... Huh?
You also know how to make muesli.
Muesli. Yes, that I do. I know that. But beyond that, what do I know? But other people there really are. Yamuna Devi Dasi, she was completely into cooking. And also Koma the cook. He's completely into cooking. Even now he's living in Ireland. He moved away from Australia. And once in a month he has a festival in his house. He lives down there in South Island somewhere on the coast. And all the devotees come, something like 80, 90 people, and he cooks a gigantic feast because that's his dharma. That's his dharma. So if you know how to cook, if cooking is your passions, you never have to work outside. There's plenty of cooks needed. If you know how to manage, you never have to go outside. There are plenty of places that need to be managed. If you know how to paint, well, there's so many. If you're an artist, the Mayapur temple needs unlimited artists. If you're an artist, know how to paint or know how to draw, know how to, etc. If you are what? Give me another example. If you're a kirtan leader, if you like to sit in kirtan, if you're a good kirtan leader, some of our kirtan leaders go all over the world and preach Krishna consciousness. And if you're a preacher, you can go anywhere. So, and even if you're just a person who likes maintenance, well, temple need maintenance. There's some people, there was a fellow, you can even be a shoemaker. I went here in Neubazars one time, there's on one particular corner there's always a shoemaker sitting. And I brought him my shoe, it had to be repaired. And when I came after 2 hours, he said, come back after 2 hours. So I was there, the shoe was ready. And I said, how much? He said, 5 rupees. I said, 5 rupees is nothing. Let me give you 20 rupees or maybe 50 rupees, at least. So no, 5 is enough. I said, why? Why don't you take more money? He said, it is my seva to the Vaishnavas. How wonderful. How wonderful. Only in Vrindavan, you know. It's my seva to the Vaishnavas. He said, 5 rupees is good for me. So he was so ungreedy. So ungreedy. Most people immediately say, yes, definitely, thank you very much. But he was so ungreedy. He was a saintly person, practically speaking. While he was repairing the shoes, he was thinking of Krishna. It's my seva to Krishna. He was a saintly person. And you can't see it from outside, if somebody is saintly or not. You can only see by the fruit of a person. Where's that? There was one famous shoemaker in Udupi. I don't know if you know the story. I forgot the name, and because he was repairing, he was sitting, when he is the deity room, there's a temple, and he was sitting behind the deity, outside the temple. And there, he had a little place where he repair shoes. And sometimes he asked, priests would come by so that he could repair his shoes. And he said, could you let me go into the temple? He said, no, no, no. Shoemaker cannot, is muchi, called muchi. He cannot go into the temple, he's impure. And so he was always praying his whole life, you know, oh Krishna, please, I want to see you. I want to see Udupi Krishna. And so then one day, very untypical for that area, there was an earthquake. Earthquake here near the Himalayas is quite common. You know, I have seen in Vrindavan the earth shaking at times. You know, it's quite common. But in South India, not so. And so there was an earthquake all of a sudden, and the door, the wall behind him, the temple door, cracked. It was a huge crack like this, and the deities had turned around and looked at him. He saw the deities. And the priests, when they saw that, they were shocked. They were shocked that the deities had turned around and looked at the shoemaker. And so they decided that from now on we'll never ask any question. Anybody can come to see Udupi Krishna. And when you go into Udupi Krishna, there's still the temple room there. You have to go around, and here's a deity. And it looks this direction. And there's this little window they made. It's called Kanaka's window, or whatever the name of the cobbler was, so that he could see the deities. You can see from there the deity. And devotees, ISKCON devotees sing. We are the only people outside of Madhava Sampradaya who can sing. They allow us to sing. Every Sunday, 12 o'clock, beautiful kirtans, 2 hours. ISKCON devotees, very beautiful. See, Krishna showed these people that he may have been a cobbler, but he was a great soul. Kiba vipra kiba nyasi sudra kananai. Yay Krishna, tattva veta segura. Well, maybe a kiba vipra, a great learned person, kiba nyasi. Well, maybe a sannyasi, sudra kananai. Well, maybe a sudra. Yay Krishna, tattva veta segura hai. If he knows the signs of Krishna, he can be the spiritual master of the whole world. That's the situation. So nothing is more precious in this life as developing our relationship to Krishna. That is the most precious thing. Because that is something that can never be taken away from us. Everything, we lose all our wealth, we lose all our teeth. How many teeth you have in the mouth? How many teeth you have? 32. Huh? 32. Really? Artificial. I have 7. The rest is all Hollywood. Yeah, me too. Mostly I take them out, and in the evening I have only a few teeth in my mouth. Because in time you lose your teeth. Yeah. In time you lose your health. In time you lose your money. In time you can't even sleep at night. You know, I mean, everything is taken away gradually. The only thing that remains... hair also, you know. I was told that I have no hair on my... I didn't know that I had no hair here in this area. And so you lose your hair. And you may lose your wife, you may lose your husband, you may lose your child. And my mother lost her youngest child. And she mourned herself to death. She never recovered. And the youngest child had cancer, brain tumor, with 3 years, and was operated 4 or 5 times in the clinic. there was a scar here. They used to cut the skull open, take a piece out. In the university clinic, all the students were around it, seeing how this boy was operated, then they close it. And then again, chemotherapy and radiation. It went on for up to 7 years, 4 years of intense suffering for this child. We should have let him die in the beginning, instead of running him through this 4 operations, one after the other. This was cruel, if you think about it. Hospital was interested because they're making money like this. They're keeping people alive as long as possible because they make money. It's a business, you know. So my mother never recovered, the youngest child. We cannot even, as men, we cannot even understand what it means for a woman to lose her youngest child. We cannot even imagine how sad that is. It's impossible. So we may even lose our child. That's the hardest thing for parents, to lose a child. Believe me. That's the one anxiety I always had. You know, I have 2 sons, now they're 40 and 36. I always had this anxiety. If something happens to them, it would be catastrophic. Catastrophic. You know, it's very hard to take that. So even our children we may lose. We will lose our health in due course of time. We lose our life. But the only thing that remains, and that is worth to work for, is our relationship with Krishna. Because that nobody can take. Even at time of death. Yam yam vapi smran bhavan tyajate ante kalivaram tam tamivaiti kontiya sadatat bhava bhavitaha. Wherever the mind is at the time of death, there we go. So life is meant, there's a goal in life. People don't know. There's a goal in life. It's not becoming a famous rock star. Becoming very famous like Michael Jackson and then go straight to hell. Because you have no Sukriti. There was one girl, disciple of Satchidananda Swami. And when Michael Jackson was in Berlin, the famous hotel that he dangled his child from the balcony, and she brought a picture of Krishna and Radharani. Krishna has his feet over his, like this, and Radharani sits beside him, and it's painted by Radharani. It's very, I don't know if you know this picture, the famous picture. And she brought this picture, and she brought Bhagavad-Gita. And she went to the hotel and said, I want to meet Michael Jackson. And the man on the table, on the reception, says, I can't help you in that. He's upstairs, yes, but he doesn't want to see anybody. And she started crying, and she said, well, you see the people sitting there, they're part of his team. They're his roadies, as you call it. You know, they work with him. You can talk to them. And so she talked to one of them, and he said, all right, I go and ask him. He went upstairs, and Michael brought the picture and brought the book. And 10 minutes later, all of a sudden, Michael Jackson comes out of the escalator and says to the girl, I love this picture. Could you take this boy out of this picture and put me in there? He said, put me, I wouldn't have a picture. This girl is very beautiful, the environment is beautiful. I would like to have that picture, myself beside this girl. And this girl, he was naive. The girl said, it's not possible, Michael Jackson, that's Krishna. We can't, that's God, we can take it out. He said, oh, please do it. He was completely naive about it, innocent kind of. How can you do it? And so she said, Lala, I cannot help you in this. So he took the picture, and he said, the book you can keep back, because I have already Swami Prabhupada's Bhagavad-Gita, he said. He had Prabhupada's Bhagavad-Gita already, you know. So, but otherwise, I mean, what was his life, if you think about it? So many things. Now a whole film has been made about his improprieties with young boys from 7 years on. You know, I mean, where do you go when you die? If you have that sort of record, can you imagine how Yamaraj will be angry, you know, if he sees a person like this? And if there's a little donation being made from his side to the temple, Like he bought Bhagavad-Gita. That is the best thing that he did in his life, practically speaking. That he got Bhagavad-Gita at home. So people live a hugely debauched life, particularly as big musicians, performers. Very sinful. Elvis Presley also. You can take any big person, practically speaking. They live a debauched life. And so where do they go after all that fame and all the money they have? They go straight to hell because of their activities. And most people are like that. I mean, Lord Chaitanya, he's most magnificent. Namo Mahavaranyaya Krishna Prem Padayati is most magnificent. And even he told the Kazi that if you kill cows, for every hair of the cow you have to go to hell 50,000 years. He didn't give him a better deal. Think about that. And he was related to Lord Chaitanya through the family, through some family connection. He was related. And so we cannot even imagine the suffering that is ahead of humanity in general. And therefore, Vaishnava is not satisfied if he just sits alone and chants his japa. He has jivadoya, jivadoya or jividoya. That means he has compassion. Titikshava, karunika. Karunika means mercy with people of this world. And he spends his time preaching Krishna consciousness, like Prabhupada did. Prabhupada was translating. He was living a very hard life. Prabhupada did not spend no time for luxury, no time for comfort. He was simply translating and preaching. In Germany also, it was amazing. Came and preached. 3 days, 4 days, I forgot how long he was there. Every day personalities came and saw him, big personalities, religious personalities, and he was just preaching from the morning to the evening. And then in the evening, when there was a little time, he sat in the room and made this wonderful album, Krishna Meditations, that was recorded in Germany. And he was going through the house and went into the kitchen, right into the kitchen, and studied whether the kitchen was clean. And he showed them how to make a chapati. And then he went into the basement to see where the books were being packed. There were 10 devotees packing books into some sort of cassette, some envelope there, 3 books at the same time you would sell like this. And he was very interested in this project. So he was constantly thinking in terms of preaching Krishna consciousness. So what a blessed soul Srila Prabhupada was. That he is not God, he's Jiva, but he is worshipped as good as God. That's true. Sakshat Harit Vinazamasta Shastre. In that sense, there is some truth in the idea that people worship Jesus not as God, that's not correct, but they worship him as good as God. That would be quite correct, actually. Because the spiritual master is supposed to be worshipped as good as God because he actually connects one with Krishna. And without spiritual master, one cannot make any progress. So we are very fortunate that Srila Prabhupada has come to us in the West in the 66 years, I think he was, or 68 years. At a late time of his life, he came to the lower east of New York, and which was full of hippies and full of drunkards. I give you an example. I was one time sitting in San Francisco in Golden Gate Park. That's where Prabhupada started to preach, in San Francisco. Golden Gate, and there's this hill which was called the Hippie Hill, because it was full of hippies in that time when Prabhupada was there. You see these films that are made with Shamashunda is there, dancing, and Hayagriva is there. That's on that hill. And so I was sitting opposite the hill on a little bench, and I was chanting my japa. Beautiful day, sun was coming up, And all of a sudden some old man came, a black person, colored person. And he was pushing a shopping cart with all his belongings. So he was a homeless person. All his belongings were in there, and probably he rested in the park. And he stood in front of me, he stopped and looked at me for 5 minutes, and I was getting worried. And then he said, you know, that man, he pointed at me, he said, that man who started this off, this Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, he was a cool cat. That's a huge praise in the black community, to be called a cool cat. He said he was a cool cat. He said he was living in the Bowery. I was living in the Bowery. And he was living in the house next to me. And the house was a complete mess. A complete mess. He said, but, then he became very thoughtful. He said, but Jesus was born in a barn. And then he walked away. And that was very beautiful, that he connected Prabhupada like this, you know. But Jesus was born in a barn, and he walked away. You know, it was such a high praise of Prabhupada. He could understand that he was special, that he was living in the Bowery, and and Jesus was living in a barn. You know, he took birth under the most difficult circumstances. And so that was our Prabhupada, that we can be so grateful that somehow or other we came to this movement, that we can be in Prabhupada's house right now. We're in Prabhupada's house, where he lived. He would come here. This was actually, at that time, the Punjab Bank was in here. That was the door, the counter door. In Prabhupada's time, this was not a library. The Punjab Bank was here. You could go through that door into the bank office. The bank was here. And Prabhupada wanted this, that people can change their money. He offered it to them. They paid a good amount of money for that. But that was his room at Prabhupada's time. It was the place for the Punjab Bank. They were living here. And but in the other rooms, Prabhupada would go. I've sitting with Prabhupada in that room many times. He was there, you know, and lecturing, or in the evening, he would sit in this garden. You can go, this is a garden, right? You could go in the garden, Prabhupada would sit under this tree and talk for 2 hours. And his closest associates were there, and you could also get in if you had some connection with somebody. And so he was living here for a good while. During the autumn time, during springtime, and then when it got too hot, Prabhupada would go to the west. He'd go to London first from here, fly to London, and from there, once being in London, he would fly to Germany, or he would fly to Rome, or he would fly to Paris, he would fly to Amsterdam, or to Sweden. Sweden also, he came and would preach. And he was so tolerant. You know, I saw this. There was one time, I think I told this story before, in Sweden, there was a very unruly student community in Uppsala University. They were all communists at that time. And Prabhupada was invited to speak, and all these students, they were so unruly, you know, rough. And so Prabhupada, of all subjects, he talks about the 4 classes of men. This is exactly the antidote to communism. Communism, there's only one class. He talked about 4 classes of men. And the labor class, which is elevated to sainthood, practically speaking, in communism, the labor class, he denoted them as the least important group. There's first-class men, which are Brahmins. Second-class men are Kshatriyas. Third-class men are Vaishyas, and fourth-class are Sudras. And people were shocked when they heard this, that somebody dared to come into this university and talk about not a classless society, a class society which is divided in 4 ways. That was unheard of. And Prabhupada was so brave. And so then one man stood up. Prabhupada asked for questions. And one man stood up and he said, of course you think you're a first-class man, sitting on a high throne, decorated with flowers, and all your followers sitting at your feet. Are you first class? And I was sitting there, not far away, like this girl, something like yourself. I was boiling. My German blood was boiling. You know, I was just hoping that Prabhupada would tell me, get him. And I would have made mincemeat out of this guy. I was boiling. You can't believe it. I became so angry that this man dares to insult Prabhupada like this. And then Prabhupada was very cool. He didn't say anything. He thought for some time. It became completely silent in the room. And then Prabhupada said, actually, I'm not a first-class man. He said, I'm a fifth-class man. There was dead silence in the room. Fifth-class man. And then he said, because I'm the servant of everyone, of all the other classes. And then I saw, he started to tremble and two big tears rolled down from behind his spectacles. It was such a nice moment, you know, you could see that Prabhupada, what humility he had, you know, that he said, I'm the servant of everyone, and that was the truth. Prabhupada was the servant of the whole society, of the whole world. He was the servant, the dasa, dasa, nudasa. It was beautiful. And the man sat down, and everybody looked back at him, looking at him like a demon, you know, that he did this, that he caused this anxiety to Prabhupada, insulting Prabhupada like this. And so he restlessly would travel. You know, he would stay sometimes in Hawaii, sometimes for translate, Chaitanya Charitamrita, for example, or he stayed in Los Angeles longer. He wanted to make a statement, this is how I want a community, that there's a temple, and then the apartments and householders live around the temple, and they can participate in the temple life. There's last year or 2 years ago, 3 years ago, some deities were installed, Radha Govinda deities were installed in Omsk, in Siberia. I will be going there in 2 weeks' time. And you know how many pujaris they have? 40. 40 pujaris. All the householders live around the temple, and every one of these householders wants just to perform an artik. They're fighting about it. Who can do this artik? You know, 40 Thaka Brahminical devotees who are in business. They do business to maintain their families, but they have worship their Shilas at home, and they do daily worship. This Prabhupada showed this. This is the idea of Los Angeles community. He showed that we should buy houses around and give so many householders the opportunity to bring their children. Because when the parents go to the temple, the children see that. Then the children go also to the temple. When the parents move too far away from the deity and don't see the deity, the children will not at all be interested in seeing the deity. You know, so we have to form these communities with Krishna in the center. Prabhupada showed us how to do this. And in this way we can do some service to Krishna. You know, preaching Krishna consciousness, hearing Prabhupada. There's this wonderful recorder, I don't know if you're aware of it, in the Master's Gift there's a little recorder where all of Prabhupada's lectures on it, and you just push a button, tick, and you can hear continuously. You just stop, then do some other work, again turn it on, continuously you hear all the lectures one after another. It's just wonderful, wonderful. And so hearing about Krishna, chanting about Krishna, eating Krishna prasadam, going to Artik, seeing the deities, greeting the deities, hearing lectures, and again having kirtan. I mean, we are so blessed by Srila Prabhupada. He created our good fortune. I asked him one time this question, I think I talked to you about it last time, that there is this verse that one who chants the holy name of Krishna, he has visited bathed in all the holy rivers of India and went to every place of pilgrimage. Right? There's a verse in Bhagavatam. And so since we were translating Bhagavatam at that time, Bhagavad-Gita, sorry, it's in Bhagavad-Gita, it's a verse from Bhagavatam, and quoted by Prabhupada in one of the purports. And so I asked Prabhupada, is it true that in my last life I was in India? That I bathed in all the holy rivers of India and went to every place of pilgrimage? And Prabhupada smiled when he heard that. He chuckled a little bit. And he said, maybe, he said. But more important is to understand that, and he looked into my eyes like this, he said, I created your good fortune. You know, Prabhupada created our good. I was very happy to hear that. From my Guru himself, I created your good fortune. Can't be better. Can't be better. You know, that's one of the nicest things I heard in my life. And that's true for everybody, that Prabhupada created our good fortune. You know, we may be in the world, we may do this and that, we may have to still work in the material world to maintain our family or whatever, but Prabhupada created the good fortune of everybody who comes to the Hare Krishna movement. And he created these wonderful facilities. So many temples we can go to, beautiful temples. So many beautiful deities there. Like we have, for example, in Ireland, next to Britain, there's Ireland. Yeah, and a huge island. And in this island, we have, our movement owns a small island in a lake. There's a big lake, it's hundreds of kilometers long, and there's an island inside this lake. And we own that island. And there's a beautiful castle on it. We bought that. And there's beautiful Radha Govinda deity, very beautiful. The mayor of Vrindavan, the father of, what's his name, Padmanabh Goswami. Who knows Padmanabh Goswami? You know, he came, Padmanabh Goswami came with his father to visit. They stayed there for a week or two, I forgot, long time. And we used to eat on the terrace. There's a nice terrace, you see the lake, beautiful weather, in May or something, June, and we were eating the breakfast. And then this man, the Vishvambar, that's the name of the father of Padmanabh Goswami, Vishvambar. He was the mayor of Vrindavan at that time, the mayor. Mayor? Mayor, you know mayor? Bürgermeister. Mayor, he was a mayor. And a very respected personality that helped Prabhupada. Prabhupada asked him to train people how to worship the deity, because they're expert in Radha-Raman temple. And so many of our devotees learned from him how to actually worship these deities in style. And so we were sitting on this veranda, and Padmanabh Goswami told me, he said, Prithu Prabhu, I've been all over the world and have seen many ISKCON temples everywhere in the world. But outside of Vrindavan, I've never seen a place like this one. He said, this place is very special, he said. So if you ever have time and you're in Europe, you must visit Innisrath Island. You can see it on the internet. Krishna Island, in Ireland. Beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. And you see these wonderful deities. There's a wonderful story with them, how they came to Ireland. I will not have the time to explain it, but it was very mystical that this particular Krishna arrived in Ireland and helped us so much to get this place. We had the deity in a box. We didn't have a temple even. First we bought the deities, then we got a place for the deities to be installed. So Krishna will help us in our Krishna consciousness if we turn to him. To that degree, we turn to him. To that degree, yeyatamam papadyati tam satai vajamiham. According he surrenders unto me, I reveal. So when we come to bhajana kriya, from there we go to anatta nivritti, that we become purified from all anattas, anatta nivritti syat. And from there we come to nishta, firm faith. And then from there we go to ruchi. We develop a taste. It's not so easy. Lord Chaitanya, what is this? This verse, na janam sun, is that the verse? No. Nam namakari bahudani savashaktis tatrapita niyamitas marayanakala etadrisi tava kripa bhagavan mamapi. Lord, you have made it so easy to approach you through your holy name. To daivam idri shamiha janurahanuraga, but I'm so fortunate I have no ruchi, no taste. That is, he puts himself in a position of a general person. We have no taste. We have taste for everything. But the holy name, to acquire a taste for the holy name, that needs work. That needs work. Those who go deeply into the holy name, they develop a taste. And they want to chant more and more. So there's ruchi, and from there's ashakti, that we become detached from matter altogether. And from there we go to, where do we go? Bhava. This is like the sun. Before the sun rises, the whole sky becomes reddish, indicating that the sun is going to appear shortly. That's bhava. And from there to prema. So it's a long way, scientifically described by Rupa Goswami in 9 steps. Where is the religiosity that have such a scientific understanding of how to achieve love of God? The principle is there. If you see in Christianity, you should love your Lord with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. So the principle is there of bhakti. But how to get there, the process, it was explained by Lord Chaitanya to Srila Rupa Goswami, the process, So it's not Hare Krishna, it's not speculative, it's not our own idea. It's what Krishna himself told, Krishna Chaitanya told the Swamis, the Goswamis, how to achieve love of God. And particularly we have given this process of chanting Hare Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Rama Hare. And again, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare. Once more. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare. Hare Rama. So let us continue on this path and not go back. Even if we have to leave, we have to come back. You cannot give up the Hare Krishna movement. I mean, I'm in this movement now 47 years. It's quite a long time. I will not go away. At least I don't have any plans. And so we should just fix our mind. It's not always difficult, not always easy in the Hare Krishna movement. And sometimes it's very difficult. I went through many difficult times in ISKCON. But we should keep on going, always going, keep on rolling, Rolling home. There's a song in America, isn't it? Rolling home to Sacramento. There was a song, famous song. So we should simply roll home, back to Krishna. Thank you very much. I thank you that you give me the opportunity to do some preaching. I appreciate very much that you came. I wish you all the best in your spiritual life. Hare Krishna.